We're going to have a very good panel. We have 4 different presentations. I'd actually like to ask all the panelists to come up on stage, and we will go through the 4 presentations and then have a discussion. So introducing Manuel Bruscas, Head of Analytics and Insights at Desigual. Vihan Sharma, Managing Director, Acxiom France. We're presenting with Michel Bellanger, Marketing Director for Carrefour Media. Matt Miller, SVP Analytics and Technology for Performics. And Takashi Okutani, General Manager, Web Business at MUJI. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on stage. So Manuel, I think you'll be presenting first, and then we will stick to the time, as we've all learned, and then go to the discussion section. Please, gentlemen, have a seat. Wherever you prefer. Should be working, yes?
Okay, good. So, okay, hi everyone. I'm here to tell you a story, the story of how we, Desigual, are changing the way we understand how a smartphone is affecting our business. But before doing that, I want to do a quick poll. So how many of you know Desigual? Raise your hands once. It's cool. How many of you are actually purchasing Desigual? Not that many. Market opportunity here. Anyway, so let me share with you some basic data on Desigual for those of you who do not know the brand. We are an apparel brand, so as we say, we dress people. We operate worldwide. We have like 500 stores around the world, but we also sell through wholesale channel, department store, online, so we are quite big. Last year, it was a great year for us, so we reached $1 billion. It was a big accomplishment for us. And specifically in terms of online, we sell in more than 20 countries with a strong presence in Europe, North America, and Asia. But this is another snapshot of Desigual. This is a picture taken from our office. So I don't know if you can really see, but over there, yeah, is the sea. So it's a fantastic view that we have. So any of you coming to Barcelona, please let me know. I'm happy to have a meeting with you. And if you don't make any business with Desigual, at least you will have a great view. But let me talk about the key topic, the smartphone. When I run analysis, or when I ask someone in my team to run analysis, I'm a bit obsessed with the business question. Because in analytics, what happens a lot of times is like you start pulling data, number crunching, and at one point you don't know what you are really looking for. So I always say, okay, what is the business question? What is the initial thought? What are we trying to accomplish? And in this case, the question was very clear. Traffic coming from a smartphone is booming. The share of traffic coming from a smartphone is amazing. I think it's no surprise to any of you, but we are seeing that in countries such as Spain, 40% of the traffic comes from a smartphone. I'm saying here a smartphone, not even tablet. In Japan, I think we are over 60, 70%, right? So this is really the reality. The challenge comes when you look at the same view from a revenue perspective, the picture is not the same. So yes, you see that the revenues coming from a smartphone are growing, but there's still a big gap, big disconnect between the traffic and the revenue, right? So basically the conclusion is, okay, we are underperforming in smartphone, right? That is what we all think. Well, not really. Lucky me, and I was really happy to see the discussion about the cookies, but lucky me, I was in Acxiom last year in Sevilla, fantastic city. We had great food also, great venue. And I learned many things, and one of them is the famous statement, cookies are not people. I know some people love talking about cookie, one day cookie, 30-day cookie. I really like people, so I think I love customers because they are the ones paying the bills, so at the end if I get a salary it's because customers are buying from Desigual. So I think the whole thing about, I didn't see a cookie ever buying, I see customers buying. So I think it's very important that we don't forget that. And taking into account this statement, the cookie is not a person, what happens if all your metrics, your KPIs, instead of building around the cookies, you build them around the users? Maybe your perspective is completely different. This is what we did. So together with Google, I think it's some people from Google over here. Laura, I don't see you. Well, we work, I see you now, Laura. So we work together with Google and we implement this cool functionality called user ID. Basically, the user ID is the functionality that allows you to track your users, your login users, regardless of the device they are using. So at the end, you start solving this famous cross-device issue that we all retailers are facing. The more important thing is that by doing that, you start having the true customer journeys, because you are seeing customers what they are doing with desktop, what they are doing with a smartphone, and what they are doing with tablet. With Desigual, I don't really care what they do, or I care what they do outside Desigual, but what is more important for me, or for us, is to really understand what they are doing and how are they interacting with Desigual. And this is what we did. And the important thing, I think I love customers. You will always hear me saying the word customer. My team is mad with me because I always say the customer in every presentation. But what is also very important, the results of this analysis were really good news to me, because it's something I like better than customer, is the significance. Reality is that for Desigual, majority of revenue comes from login users, which means that from a statistics point of view, the results that I'm going to share with you are significant. So that's fantastic news, because if you run analysis and your analysis is not significant, as analysis is a disaster, right? So that significance made me really happy. So which were the main learnings? A login user is a better user. So don't care the metric you look at. Conversion rate, euros per shopper. A login user is bringing you more value. And makes sense, right? A login means certain level of engagement. So if you want to really engage with customers, login is a good symptom of engagement. Second thing, the more devices a customer uses, the better. That's also fantastic, and it's common sense. As a brand, the more touch points you have with a customer, the better. So now we have interaction with desktop, tablet, the smartphone. I think people see mobile as a risk. I see it as a fantastic opportunity, because for the first time ever, marketeers, we have a 24 hours channel interaction with our customers. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity. The third learning was the value of a smartphone. I really enjoy the attribution discussion, because it's one of my favorite topics. And somehow, to using this attribution terminology, what we see in the old setup, in the cookie setup, it was like last click revenue. So revenues coming from a smartphone because customers purchase through a smartphone. However, if you do the same attribution logic and you do the customer journey, you see a lot of conversions, a lot of transactions happening or being assisted by a smartphone. And what is more important, number 4 here, is we learn not only that mobile plays a role, but we start to understand where plays a role. And I think it's very important that we retailers understand how our customers are using the different devices. Are they doing certain things in a smartphone? Are they doing certain things in tablet? Are they doing certain things in desktop? That is what we are learning. So just to finish, the business implications, because we did this to get like insights and actions, right? So first, we realized that we need to keep investing in having login users, which means we need to keep investing in CRM, in engaging with customers, in enhancing our value proposition. Second, we are reevaluating the return on investment on mobile. We need to recognize that the value, that incremental value is bringing by assisting certain transactions, so make sure that we are not underestimating. Number 3, it's reinforcing that we need to enhance, keep enhancing and keep investing in the mobile experience. That means apps, but also means a fully new-fledged responsive site that we are building. And the last thing, we need to complete the customer journey. I said at the beginning, we are a truly omnichannel player. Retail, 90% of the retail still happens in stores, so we are trying to connect the dots to understand the relationship between online and offline. We already know a bunch of customers from us buy online and pick up the product in a store or do returns in a store, but at the same time, we want to go beyond. And also working with Google, I think they told us that we are the first retailer implementing this cool functionality offline to online to better understand, again, the customer journey. And that's it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me see whether this works.
Action.
It's not going on. Oh, sorry about that.
Go to the next pre-zone. There we go.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, so hi, my name is Vihan Sharma, and I am the managing director for Acxiom in France. A short introduction to Acxiom. We are a leading data and marketing services organization and we help our clients activate their CRM data across multiple channels and platforms. We do this by helping our clients identify their customers across different data silos. We help them reach these customers and audiences across multiple media platforms. And finally, we help them close the loop and allow the advertisers to understand the marketing effectiveness of their marketing dollars. With me today, we have Michel Bellanger from Carrefour Media, one of our clients in France. Michel, I'll let you.
Hello, I'm very happy to be there with you to share this presentation. I'm marketing director for the network of Carrefour, which is a complete separated structure inside Carrefour. Our mission into Carrefour is to monetize the audience of Carrefour, which is the largest retailer in France and in Europe, the second retailer in the world. And what we try to do is to connect audience from Carrefour to FMCG brands. How many of you have heard about the GAFA? Well, let me present to you now the GAFAC. What is GAFA? GAFA is Google, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon. GAFAC is the same with Carrefour at the end. Why? Because I'm very convinced that more and more retailers will be part of the game. We are the part of the wave we discussed previously, so let me show you how. The fact is that where we stand is that FMCG brands doesn't have access to actual transactional data or media consumption data, as the relationship is controlled by the retailer or the publisher. And FMCG brands, CPG brands, sorry, actually use media KPIs like click, number of click, CPC, click-through rate to manage their rates media exposure. So our objective is to create incremental value for CPG brands and publisher, sharing our old data using a safe and privacy-friendly environment called Safe Haven with Acxiom. So, Carrefour consider all stores as media channel where consumer interact directly with brands. Our clients spend per average 2 hours per visit. So this allows brands to expose their marketing efforts to their clients into the store through packaging, promotions, in-store activity, CRM, and in returns, it allows Carrefour to collect data related to purchases. And therefore, our solution allows brands to develop branding strategy through actual sales data, combining with other knowledge we can have about weather, about all the panels, including the panels, rather than strategy only based on panels. So this is the first time brands can use actual transactional data through all the value chain for media activation, from creatives, optimization, personalization, to closed-loop measurements.
So now that we have understood what we are trying to do, we are actually going to take you through an actual case study which we launched a couple of months back with Danone in France. And the solution and the theme of this case study is based on connectivity. We identified that there are 3 different issues with connectivity across client data. So first of all, from a Carrefour perspective, they had multiple data silos within their own ecosystem. We helped them create a single customer view, which allows Carrefour to share much more information with the CPG brands. We help them distribute these insights across the different fragmented audience platforms, so different ad servers, different ad exchanges, et cetera, et cetera. And finally, the third problem with connectivity was in order to connect the media exposure data, which comes in various formats and huge volumes, to actual transactional data to allow Carrefour and Danone to see whether the campaigns actually do create marketing effectiveness. Right.
Well, we started our first campaign with Danone. And using combining set data, we help Danone to identify their customer through their own proprietary segmentation based on the quantity of product consumed. We crossed in data mining two information. On the y-axis, we have created 3 segments of category buyers. So we disposed about, we are talking about low, medium, and heavy buyers of yogurt. That means that we collected all the tickets for Danone, for Nestle, Yoplait from General Mills, for example, and even though the retail brands. On the x-axis, we have created 3 other segments of Danone product-only buyers, and we share with Danone 5 relevant segments. We described all the segments in terms of profile, in terms of product consumption, and the global of the 5 segments represent about 6 million of buyers. So that's what we are calling big data. We pursue with Danone the marketing goal of increase the average basket. And one of example of obvious strategy we can engage with our clients is to engage our consumer to move from the EV category buyer and medium Danone to the heavy segments. So we identify easily the good offer, the best message we can deliver to the target to engage them to move into another category for a most valuable category for Danone. So it is very another example. You can see that in terms of incremental value, the objective of Danone is clearly to segment all the consumer, and you can see that difference between the low and the EV consumer. The difference is about 50x consumption in terms of yogurt consumption. So it's very huge business issue. After using the unique view of our clients, we were in 5 digital campaigns using our connectivity with premium publisher and ad network, so ad exchange mainly, through our unique anonymous ID we built with Acxiom. And clearly the opportunity is to personalize the offer depending on the segment strategy we have decided with the client. And that allows to us to provide to our clients the best user experience possible, and for FMCG brands, and Danone in particular, the one-to-one marketing at scale. So finally, we closed the loop, providing to Danone a measurement of effectiveness on offline sales for the digital campaign. And the overall campaign has delivered a final result of 5 points of incremental revenue for Danone. And we share with Danone a lot of insights from the campaign in terms of creatives, targeting, phasing, and practice of buying. So it's very important to us to share all of that with the FMCG brands. And we are very happy because with FMCG brands, we engage a new relationship with the retailer. And we discussed about that just previously. It's very complicated to change the retailer and to work with them. But we can be together with the anecdote to change the relationship with the retailer. And we are very happy to open a new area of co-op media and marketing operation. Thank you.
Thank you, Michel. Matt, over to you.
Thanks. See if I'm the first person today to get the clicker wrong. So far, the answer is yes. There we go. So I'll probably do things a little backwards. Couple reasons. One is when we think about retail as really multiple verticals, multiple industries really coming into retail, meaning the integration of customer data onto online and a heavy focus on transactional. The second is I'm going to talk more about the mechanics that led to change over the change in the strategy itself, because often what we find with our clients is that it's the mechanics and it's the operations that drive most of our performance clients first, and then they move that up the chain. So like I said, a little bit backwards. And so want to talk a little about some of the work we're doing with one of our clients that was pushing us and pushing them to connect their offline data with ultimately operational segments. And so we work with a variety of clients. One of them is a retail card marketer. And so they are in a very heavily competitive marketplace, but beyond that marketplace and beyond that competition, what they care about is driving against the right segments, the right customer profile, and ultimately lifetime value. So when we send media or we send people into those experiences, what happens is it goes into their black box of approvals, of risk, and they score it over a pretty sizable period, but there's this fragmented ecosystem. So as an agency, we sit in the left side, and we sit on all of this great marketing data, the behavioral data that is what segment, or what did they approach from a keyword perspective, if it's all search, and what geography, to what are all the different behaviors. But when it flows into their system, it turned into this black box. So we knew some common links. We knew how they engaged with the products. We knew what product they applied for. But what we didn't know is what happened. So if someone applied for a card, what we didn't know is were they approved, and frankly, what's the value to the organization? And all of that modeling was happening, and I think the first party conversation prior talked about this, is all this modeling was happening with the actuarial scientist over in the marketer side. They're building it, they're segmenting it, and they can tell us, hey, in fact, person X, Y, and Z is worth this to us. But often there was a massive lag between that decisioning, so anywhere between 24 hours and 2 weeks to actually understand the lifetime value and our ability to actually surface it and then operate. So when we started working on first-party data, if you will, or offline data integration, it was purely for operations purpose. Get the data into our system, move faster, and what we found is there were massive still lags in that scoring process for us to make decisions. And so even when we went down to the customer level, by the time we got that data back in 2 weeks, what we found is our assumptions around the marketing and around the landscape were actually wrong. We were actually not driving the right type of customer and had to shift. So goals shift, ROI models shifted, and performance kept going up and down because as a performance marketing client, every day they're asking how many more customers can you provide in a subscription model. So the first thing we had to do with them is actually bring that data in and find and predict essentially reporting, not unlike what has been done over the last couple of decades in mixed modeling, but actually predict and score each media element and determine what's the likelihood that we're going to drive a high-value customer and then build that into our system. We also had to democratize that. So while we had a bunch of analysts working on that, ultimately the strategists, the people who were hands-on keyboards are not sitting there pulling that out. And so we had to surface that within an analytics platform that gave them access to that. They understood how confident we were in the likelihood that we're driving the right customer and gave them the right insight to make decisions. And what we found is we ended up building essentially this performance marketing ecosystem for the client, from reporting through to performance optimization. And so because those models were so bespoke, we ended up building a bidding algorithm all for kind of built into search, right? Because that's the core of their business, that looked at who the customer was, who we predicted the customer is, what the marginal rates of return were in a short-term fashion. So from an R&D perspective, we tested a whole variety of models. Most of them fell out. Some of them were interesting from a short-term perspective, and so they were built into an optimization engine. And so started to satisfy the client's needs that we're actually targeting, measuring, and optimizing against the right client, or right customer segment, but then they asked how big is big, which most people are used to, and it's a separate set of sort of algorithms from a simulation perspective. The problem we faced is kind of a couple-fold. First is that's all targeting, that's all measurement, it's not targeting, it's all measurement, it's optimization, and frankly, it's all backward looking. And so we kind of built some trust with them that we could take in the customer data, we could score it, and actually start to optimize in a backward looking perspective, but we're still targeting people in a fairly rudimentary way. Did they look for the product? Did they seek it? We didn't know, right? We just assumed that they were actually part of it. So even though we had this engine, and frankly, we had built all of these systems in place for all of the marketers, for the client, for our teams, to go through short-term optimization, intraday optimization, looking at are they pacing at the right level? Do we predict that they're actually going to hit their ROI goals? All the way through planning and forecasting and scenario optimization, we still weren't changing the way that we were marketing to consumers. We were still picking up raw behavior. And so that process, though, allowed us to start to change the conversation with the client, where their CRM team was starting to look and say, can I bring that data online? And this was primarily for search. And the first thought is, well, we don't need to for search. We can start with the landing pages, we can start other media, but search in itself, the idea that someone looks for a product should be relevant enough. The problem with that is that, in fact, not all customers, not all searchers, not all audiences, not all people are created equal. And so we still had these raw segments, these raw cuts, and we started bringing in, essentially, the client's product propensity models into this model. And so from a targeting perspective, we started changing the behavior from where things like folks that we thought would have been, say, current customers who were not likely to actually purchase. What we found is that all of a sudden an acquisition marketer started talking about cross-sell. So very simple example is that tactically, a lot of subscription companies will opt out if they know that someone's logged into the page. Well, if you're a credit card marketer and you can move someone upstream because they're going from a no-fee card to a $500 fee card, or a couple thousand, not likely that they're doing that online, well, you can start to change the conversation around how you segment your marketing, how you segment the conversation, and all of a sudden we're having a different conversation with the client around the value of what tactical acquisition looks like, which is strategically important from a revenue perspective, but doesn't really talk about the way that customers are moving through and how they're scoring and managing it. So the first part is we started having a conversation with different areas of the organization about how they apply audiences, how they apply customers into that. And the second is when we talked about attribution, and the team talked about that as well, when we looked at sort of a last click model, and we certainly were able to show significant lift and build an engine, but we also knew that it's not about just the audience, but it's about what their journey is. And one of the challenges that we find with a lot of our clients is whether the number is 50% that actually are buying attribution systems, or it's 12% of dollars that are running through it, it maybe is probably even lower than that, which is a lot of people are sitting on a lot of data, they're sitting on a lot of technology, but they're not extracting the insights from it. And so we felt like if we could start to actually show how the acquisition campaigns, which tend to be very bottom of the funnel, are influenced and interacting with all top of the funnel, we start to change the conversation within the organization and start to talk about more about the customer journey. So the first challenge we had was we looked at just raw descriptive analytics. Even though there's a multi-touch attribution model sitting within the company, it had not made it down to the actual marketers. And so built that out and actually talked to them a little bit about that challenge, and found that there was a significant problem in there. The second is we built econometric models that showed offline and out of home was a higher influencer on mobile, and so built the bridges towards the other groups in marketing to actually start that conversation. And then said, hey, look, we've had a significant lift year on year by doing this. We've automated a lot of things, but we're willing to actually change the behavior and change how we work as a direct response to start to integrate with other areas of a client's business that historically said, hands off, there's above the line and below the line. Thanks.
Yeah, everybody talk in the front, but I prefer to stand in the very right-hand side. Very sorry. All right, thank you. Hi, my name is Takashi Okutani from MUJI, Japan. I'm a general manager of Web Business Division. And some of you already know about MUJI's. Well, we have more than 400 stores in Japan, and then we have more than 200 stores in overseas. And then dealing many items like stationeries, food and apples and furniture as an original brand. And then what I'm gonna talk to you guys today is maybe sounds a bit opposite or strange from yesterday's session. Well, in MUJI Japan, recently we, instead of searching the customers by using other technologies on the website, we created a CRM app called MUJI Passport to get the more first-party data and visualize and retarget, and we could somehow our existing customers by utilizing web technologies and bring existing customers more, not only online, but also offline stores. So I have to explain what the MUJI Passport is, and the MUJI Passport has main 3 functions. One is a digital ID. We can scan the barcode, and then we can kind of identify which customer come and what purchased. And second is communication tools. We communicate with many customers through app. And third point is, last one is a search function for stores and a product. Many customers use this function, and through those customers' activities, we got a log data or like location data and product preference data. And now, so now MUJI Passport kind of main principle is make the real card into digital and try to integrate the customer's multiple IDs, like social IDs, MUJI members IDs, or credit card IDs, by providing some incentives. More IDs you connect, more easier to learn, and also for the customer, more miles and get more MUJI points quicker. And so that we can deeply understand one person with multiple IDs. And also based on this platform, we collected many data to analyze it. So what kind of data we got from MUJI Passport? Well, of course, we got some kind of, demographic data like sex and age and purchase product. Not only that, we got check-in data from offline and also purchase data. And of course, we got every data from e-commerce site. And also some of the comment about the MUJI product. Those are the kind of composition of our first-party data. And then today, I just want to talk about, of course, we do, conduct a basic analytics or segmented marketing based on the data. But I would like to talk a little bit more unique, our marketing case using the MUJI Passport data. And normally, when we talk about customer data in MUJI, many people in MUJI said, big data in marketing, are there any relationship? Anyway, many people are working at the store. 90% of sales coming from that store, so they don't have no interest about the digital marketing. So they just say the data is just a result. And using the data, maybe web people can do some marketing, but in the store, nothing to do with the marketing. So marketing is more like creative, or like how do I give a big smile to the customers. Well, but yeah. So that's somehow yes. And in terms of web marketing, based on the data, we do segmented and personalized data. It recommends something to the customers. But through MUJI Passport, maybe this is too boring, and it sounds too systematic for many people at the MUJI. But I sometimes feel the same way, because those kind of things, it's good, but they're too automated, and also somehow black box, and only web marketing people can understand. But the big data from MUJI Passport tells many unnoticed fact. So today I want to talk about the MUJI curry. We sell the curry. We are a Japanese company, but we sell curry. And it's kind of interesting that the many interesting facts, like people who purchase the curry, 34% of purchaser will be a repeater. And for example, in fact, that in Japan nowadays, that the MUJI curry is a best-selling item. You know, so data tells us some unique customers' behaviors. So we decide to make the campaign to tell simply what the first-party data said, and then try to explain that how good MUJI curry product is. So I want to show you the simple videos. Can I turn it on? Sorry, all written in Japanese. But this is, video content says that among 7,000 MUJI items, quantity-wise, #1 is a butter chicken curry. This is really butter chicken curry. I want to taste it, but I didn't bring it, sorry. And those data show that how hot it is. This is a green curry. It's from Thailand, you know. This is the second best-selling item. And this is like a fiscal quantities we sell, you know. It's like double of sales of curries occur. You know? And then about 20,000 packs of the day we sell. You know? And it's kind of very funny that by region that you know, people tend to purchase curry more. For example, northern part of this called Aomori Prefecture, about 10% of the customer purchase the curry. Well, I don't know why, but they purchase it. You know? And then they purchase that, then of course, the set of naan. Well, one person purchased 424 curries per year. I don't know why, but that's the data set, you know. And we got a lot of review about the curry, more than 1,000. So we got a lot of support from the existing customers. You know. Thank you. So let's go back to the slide and finish it up. Thank you. And then this is the result, you know. In Japan, last year we have a consumption tax increase from 5 to 8. But after such a bad effect, while this campaign runs, you know, sales of curry go up, not only the store, but also online store, both up to about 200%. And last week, you know. And here's my conclusion. You know. Somehow big data is not only good for the web, personalization, or predictions, you know. As some people said, tell the story. So by using the interesting first-party data, and you know, try to convert to communication content, you know, we can get good attention from the customers. You know, not only just heavy MUJI fan, but also new customers. So also, this case shows that the data can be treated more creative way. So that's my very short communication, but that's it from my side. So thank you very much.
Manuel and Vihan, Michel, and Matt for your insights into the challenges you guys have been facing and what you've been doing about that. As we move into our discussion, we have the topic of big data in retail, integrating offline data, and I think when we're talking about retail today, obviously we're talking about omni-channel retail. And I kind of see two big groups of challenges there. One is the technology challenge, and we'll try to, you know, get time to talk about things like single view of the customer and all the technology issues we have with that. For a lot of retailers, that means trying to take legacy systems, old legacy systems, or ancient legacy systems, and trying to get them to do all the wonderful things we can do today. The second big area of challenge, though, is the people challenge, getting people to actually think differently, your own employees, about how you do retail. And I think it's the gap in the retail area is, I think, bigger than in almost any other industry. If I'm at a media company, so my old employer, Yahoo, we made money from data. So it wasn't hard to get employees to understand you have to actually use the data we're producing. They did. If I'm a brand company, I'm used to spending a lot of time really trying to understand my brand and how it connects to consumers. But if you're a retailer, you're selling perhaps Carrefour, you know, thousands, hundreds of thousands of products being sourced from hundreds or thousands of providers. And so your teams are mainly focused on transactional data, margin, price, frequency. Getting them to actually start using the rest of the data is a big gap. So I see a huge issue of the gap between how a lot of employees in retail companies see the hype of big data, or the potential of big data as we see in a conference like this, and their daily jobs. So one of our topics is integrating offline data. Now, if a retailer is trying to move from being an offline retailer to an e-commerce expert also, throwing the integration of offline data into that mix is one big challenge. So I wanted to hear from you guys. Manuel, you touched about it, I think, on your last slide. You pointed out that, integrating offline data was for you the next step in the customer journey. How are you going to go about doing that?
Very good question. Reality is that customers do not care about channels. That is the reality, and what we are already seeing through our loyalty card, a lot of customers buy online and offline, although certain things online and certain things offline. So I think everything starts around the customer. So the key challenge is make sure the organization understand that. Because if organization understand and you can use not only transactional data but NPS or other surveys about customer satisfaction, if you get that, I think it's easier because once organization understand, hey, customer is really the king, then the next comes easily. I think it's more a cultural thing because if you don't solve the customer centricity, you could spend hours and weeks and months and you will not resolve the issue. So it's at least what I've seen, not only Desigual but in other companies I've been working.
Got it. Takashi, now, with the MUJI passport, as I understand it, you're actually able to integrate offline data from the start because you're getting POS data into it? Is that how you're approaching it?
Yeah, that's true. And, but still that we are totally lack of more like not only offline data but also online data. Because that we have to ask customers to match the IDs, And in Japan, that we cannot really force the customers to do it. So now just about 10% of the customers connected with email address and also MUJI Passport ID. About 2 to 3% connected MUJI Passport with social ID. Well, that's the reality. So we really have to wait more and just to get to know that the customers how to use a MUJI Passport and some support or promote them to connect to their IDs. Otherwise, we cannot really go out that we're out of technologies and using that out technologies and getting more data.
Thank you, Takashi. So unfortunately, we seem to have used up our discussion time, I've just discovered. So I'm going to ask one more question, and then we will wrap up this session. The nirvana of single view of the customer. In so many companies, everyone's talking about it, and when you dig into the details, I think what we see a lot is very few retailers who are actually multi-channel retailers have it. We all tend to be using more the approximation of our loyalty card programs. So when I say single view of the customer, what I'm asking is, I have a customer who walks into my physical store and orders something which requires him to maybe leave his address. I've got my online CRM, I've got my telephone cells. For me, single view of the customer means each of those data points are all stored in one CRM. Do any of you guys have that nirvana yet? Volunteers.
Work in progress.
Manuel, work in progress. Michel?
It's work in progress, but we have to separate two operations, recognition and identification and recognition. Identification is a job of the loyalty program, and you collected from your clients different information, and after to connect them and to connect the audience, you have to work on the recognition. And I think using the safe haven, we can build together with developing partnership, powerful function on recognition. And because to take the example of Carrefour, only 10% of our clients are connecting to Carrefour.com, who is the portals for Carrefour, and only 10% of these 10% are connected and logging with their ID. So to increase the reach of recognition, we need to identify some partners and work with third-party data.
Got it.
So to answer is work on it. We work on it.
Work in progress. So I think anyone else from the panel on that subject? If not, I would wrap up and say I think there's a lot of opportunity for companies out there to help retailers actually get to that single view of the customer nirvana. Very few people are, so that's an invitation to the crowd. Help us as retailers get to a single view of the customer and what we can actually do with that. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Excellent.